Burnaby Deer Lake.
Mr. Speaker, this party has been in government for 11 years. It has been in government for 11 years. It has overseen the dismantling of the justice system and has done nothing to address it. Judge Steinberg's reasons for staying the charges are a damning indictment of this government's mismanagement of the justice system for years and years. He says, and I quote, "The nature of this charge is one that society in general has a very strong interest in seeing determined by trial in the ongoing effort to suppress the avenues of harm which have opened up given the current ubiquitous nature of the internet, its easy access to people of all ages, and the need to protect vulnerable young people who may fall prey to internet predators. There is no question in my mind that there is a very strong societal interest in this matter." End of quote. The most serious of charges, huge potential for harm if we as a society are not able to prosecute such cases successfully. Yet here we have the accused walking free after a 27-month delay, more than 2 years. So my question is to the minister responsible for our justice system. When is she going to fix these problems and make sure that those accused of the most serious of offences do not walk free without a trial?
Attorney General.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And once again, I would like to share another quote with the member opposite. "Criminal cases are delayed to the point where we risk dismissal or reduction of thousands of charges," Chief Judge Robert Metzger said, "because the court system is unable to meet the accused's right to trial within a reasonable time." Unfortunately, it's a little inconvenient for the member opposite. That happened in the Vancouver Sun in 1998. The issue, Mr. Speaker, is that we have a system in need of reform. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what we've been doing. Because this government, for example, began the community court. And let me tell the member opposite that, in fact, we're seeing a new way of trying to manage people who are very complicated to deal with within the court system. Just recently, Mr. Speaker, we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the drug court in British Columbia. Unbelievable success. 10 years of success. Mr. Speaker, this government began to focus on prolific offenders because the tragic circumstance in the justice system is that a small percentage of people continue to come in and out of our system, So we created a prolific offender program. We have continued to look at innovation. We're going to do that, but we're also going to look at how we can ask some questions about systemic reform.
Well done.
Member has a supplemental.
I do, Mr. Speaker. Well, maybe the Premier and maybe the Minister can be responsible and take some action today instead of asking the people of this province to watch yet another criminal go free as we talk about systemic change somewhere down the road in a year or two. In his judgment, Judge Steinberg quotes from Associate Chief Judge Gurmail Gill in a recent case of impaired driving that was state, quote, "The current delays being experienced in the justice system are not ones that can be described as temporary or unforeseen, nor do they stem from a sudden upswing in case volumes overwhelming the system. Clearly, the cause of the problem is a court with significant and chronic reduction in complement, despite the provision to government of timely and detailed information outlining the shortage, as well as the potential consequences of failing to address it. Not temporary, not unforeseen. You were warned time and time again, yet this government continued to ignore the overwhelming evidence and cut our justice system far beyond what it could handle." So my question again is to the minister responsible for the justice system. When is she going to stop ignoring the evidence and fix these problems now?
Attorney.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And as a result of some of the significant reforms that we've made as a government, we've seen 13,000 fewer cases actually show up in courtrooms across British Columbia. Mr. Speaker, we're going to continue, Mr. Speaker, to look at reform. In fact, this is the government who, for the first time in 3 decades, revitalized the Family Law Act. And why is that important, Mr. Speaker? It's important not just because families are numbers and that we need to be concerned about backlogs. It's important because there's different ways for families to find resolution in complex, very combative circumstances. So what we're going to do, Mr. Speaker, is move those cases out of courtrooms wherever possible. And in fact, for the first time in a long time, we actually had a constructive, positive discussion about that in this legislature. So that's the kind of constructive behavior that we'd love to see, where we discussed the Family Law Act, we agreed that it needed to be changed. Those are the kinds of reforms that are going to make long-term differences in the province of British Columbia.